Good evening. We are back to the Spirits book, book 2, and today we start chapter 6, which is Spirit Life or Spiritual Life, life in the spiritual world. When we return to the spiritual world, we study reincarnation before, the conceptions, we have chapter 5 or considerations on multiple lives, and then chapter 6, what we do in the spiritual world when we are back, and how the process and how long we spend and things like that. Okay, so Philip, you are back. You read.
Thank you very much. 223, Errant Spirits. Does the soul reincarnate immediately after being separated from the body? Sometimes reincarnation happens immediately, but more often it occurs after longer or shorter intervals of time. Reincarnation is almost always immediate in higher worlds. Corporal matter is less coarse in those worlds, and a spirit retains nearly full use of its spiritual faculties while incarnated. Its normal state is that of a lucid somnambulist.
So here, the spirits bring us a couple of concepts that are very interesting, right? But first, let's define errant spirits, right? Errant spirits or wandering spirits are spirits that are in the spiritual world between incarnations. When a spirit reaches perfection and it's no longer subject to reincarnation, it's no longer an errant spirit. Spirits are going to talk about it later in these questions, but it's just for us to understand the word. So the word errant or wandering is what's used for spirits that are in the spiritual world. Remember, in Spiritism, we use soul for an incarnated spirit, and errant spirits or just spirits on when we are in the spiritual world. So when we talk about reincarnation, the question from Kardec is that if we reincarnate immediately, and the spirits tells us that sometimes it can happen, but more often it occurs after longer or shorter intervals of time. And that's very important, because what they are saying here is that the majority of us will spend more time in the spiritual world, longer or shorter interval of times. In special circumstances is when reincarnation happens immediately. But then they go further in talking about more evolved spirits in higher worlds, that reincarnation is almost immediate. But we have to understand that evolved spirits, they, at this stage of the evolution, they are incarnated with a clear concept and understanding of the spiritual world. That's why they describe it as a lucid somnambulist. Okay, somnambulist here in the sense of a trance medium. So the spirits that they will go reincarnate at a more rapid speed, at the interval between reincarnations is shorter. And also, they don't mention here, but in the primitive state, when the spirit has nothing much to gain from being in the spiritual world, reincarnation also happens very fast, and very more or less in a consecutive manner, meaning you go back to the spiritual world, you spend very little time there, and you come back. They say normally that primitive spirits, when they discarnate, because they know nothing, they will stay very close to where they last incarnated, let's say hovering around where they discarnated. We see this, André Luiz mentions this in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, and they come back to a new incarnation very fast. Okay, so that's the concept of reincarnation. But talking about us here, our present stage of evolution, we can spend 30, 50, 100 years in the spiritual world, or even more between incarnations. Divaldo used to joke that, you're likely to reincarnate as your grandson or great-grandson, granddaughter or great-granddaughter. So for you to have an idea of amount of time between incarnations on average. But again, there is no specific rule for it, and it's according to our necessity, as we are going to see later in the questions ahead. Okay? Any questions here? Okay, so what happens between incarnations?
224. What happens to the soul in between incarnations? It becomes an errant spirit, hoping for a new destiny. It is in a state of waiting. How long can these periods last? From a few hours to thousands of centuries. There are no predetermined limits to the errant period, which may carry on for extensive intervals of time, but is never perpetual. Sooner or later, a spirit is permitted to start a new life to purify its previous lives. Does the length of time that a spirit is left in the errant state depend on the spirit's will? Or can it be imposed as a means of atonement? It is a consequence of the spirit's free will. Spirits are fully aware of their actions, but in some cases, it is also a punishment inflicted by God. In others, it has been granted at their own requests to enable them to pursue studies that are easier or more effectively carried out in the spirit state.
Okay, so we know from the books of André Luiz and the books by Divaldo a lot more about life in the spiritual world than at the time of Kardec. So when Kardec came with the Spirits book, we had very little information about life in the spiritual world. The book Heaven and Hell by Swedenborg talked about life in the spiritual world, but besides that, the very sparse information. So the spirits here try to give us an idea of what happens between incarnations, and they bring some important concepts that the spirits can last from a few hours to thousands of centuries. Again, few hours and thousands of centuries are the exceptions. The rule, the normal is for a regular period of time, again, from 30 to 100, 200 years. But in exceptional cases, it can be on these cases. Now, how can it be from a few hours? You have to imagine, that will be not only exceptional, but very exceptional case. The same thing with thousands of centuries. Why would the spirit stay in the spiritual world thousands of centuries without the possibility of coming to a new incarnation and put in practice what he have learned in the spiritual world? So when we talk about how the will of the spirit interferes on the incarnation, the spirit tells us that is a consequence of the free will. But in some cases, it's an atonement. Punishment here, remember, we're trying to move away from punishment inflicted by God, consequence of the divine law, which will make us, force us, in a sense, come to a new incarnation for a specific reason. But when the spirit is not aware of the reincarnation process and refuses, in a sense, not for for being hard-headed, but just for lack of interest in learning more about our eternal journey, even when you are in the spiritual world, you'll be brought to a new incarnation, to a reincarnation, without being aware of the process. Let's say you are a religious person that follow a religion that does not believe in reincarnation, and you go back to the spiritual world, you continue to follow that religion, and you continue to believe in the precepts of that religion, so you will not believe or accept reincarnation. Eventually, you will be brought to a new incarnation, a reincarnation, and probably in a place that will be receiving more information or enlightenment on the subject of reincarnation, to try to open your mind to the concept. Again, this is all ideas of how things work in the reincarnation process. Okay. So this very structured process, Eric is asking, process of reincarnation exists since the beginning of human existence, or it was structured as humans evolved. Okay, so we say that the reincarnation process is for the majority of people is like how you call Elmo, a machine? I forgot the word now. The word in
rolling belt.
Yeah, rolling belt. Yeah, something like that. Elmo has a different expression for a
conveying belt.
Conveying belt. Thank you, Elmo. Yeah. So the conveying belt, it's the default process. In the primitive state of humankind, we don't need to make exceptions to the conveying belt, because we are all very limited in our ability to conveyor belt. Yeah. To do anything outside of the natural law of reincarnation. As we become more complex and more evolved spirits, then there are some exceptions to the conveyor belt, and those are the ones that are either participating in their own plan, or their spirits are making special plans for them, special designs for the reincarnation, as described in the book Missionaries of the Light by André Luiz. But in the very beginning of human existence, meaning in the primitive state or in the less evolved state, there is really no need for something like that. Or it will be in exceptional cases, one or another, that is going to help humanity move forward. At our stages, it will be more common. Will be a vast minority that are special cases, but it's already a large number compared to what it was millions of years ago. Okay. Conveyor belt. I need to remember that. Okay. Any questions here, Danny?
I'm trying to understand better the question 223. So when the spirits are, let me see, so when the spirits are more evolved, they stay less in the spiritual world because they don't need much work to do there. They need I
think it's less than they don't have much to do there. More of they can combine both activities at the same time, because a superior spirit, as they say here, retains nearly full use of its spiritual faculties while incarnated. You can do more or less, you can do both at the same time. And your physical body is already ethereal in a sense that it doesn't carry the heaviness of our physical body here.
It is kind of paradoxical with our situation here right now, right? So João just said, when we are very young spirits, so to say, very unevolved spirit, we go through this conveyor belt process that we can't really utilize time in the spiritual world. All our learning at that stage is mostly in association with matter. So it would be a waste of time hanging out over there unproductively. So our reincarnation is almost immediately, right? As we mature a little bit, we are able to gain through experiences in the spiritual world as well. The book Heaven and Hell is a good example of that, right? So even the very suffering, ignorant spirits that you see in Heaven and Hell, in the part of the unhappy spirits, these are already more evolved spirits who can benefit for some time in the spiritual world. Some can actually make some decisions for themselves, right? So we spend more time there as we evolve. But then what they're talking about here now in this 223 are the spirits way, way, way above us. The level of more intellect development that we cannot even conceive at our stage right now. And that perispirit, it's so ethereal. It's more close to spirit than to matter, so to say. But it's still matter, please. In the sense of still matter. That the transition between incarnation and discarnation is very minimal. So the so-called death, as we understand, and the return to the spiritual world, for them, it's just like crossing the street, and they can cross it like back and forth anytime they want, very easily. But that is for spirits way, way, way above us, something that you can even start to imagine right now. For us at this point where we are right now, the more we evolve, we spend more time in the spiritual world because we can really benefit of the experiences over there.
But it's like we couldn't even recognize someone like this.
No.
Right?
No. It's something way beyond us.
Yeah, we don't even have, we cannot say a Mother Teresa or Chico example we use here. They are not there yet. They are far from there.
And here it's talking about reincarnation, but not necessarily on Earth. It could be anywhere.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Correct.
No, it's not. That's not going to be on Earth. A spirit like that is not reincarnating on Earth.
Yes.
Okay. Now it's making sense. Okay.
Yeah. It will be the last level of the worlds, the happy worlds, right? As it's called, right? The perfect worlds, happy worlds, or something. I think that's the definition. Those are the worlds that will receive those spirits.
But again, for example, the book that we are reading in the book club, And Life Goes On. So the place where the two main characters go to could be a place like that, or no?
No.
Nobody's reincarnated. It's totally the spiritual world.
Yeah, they are here. They are here around Earth. They are in a not solar-like place.
Okay.
Yeah. What's this? Etelvina? No, that's not her name. What's her
Evelina.
name? Evelina. Yeah, Evelina. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a full city. It doesn't say it's not solar. It's a full city.
Yeah.
With schools, everything, factories or industries, like they say, and institutes and transportation, and it's a full city, but it would not be a place like a happy world, like you're saying. They are incarnated.
Yeah, no, this is the spiritual world.
It's different.
This is the spiritual world, and it's around Earth.
Okay.
It's one of the cities around Earth. So, if I remember, they lived in Santos. Something like that, wasn't it? Santos?
Yeah.
So it's a spiritual colony above Santos, probably.
And
there, São
Santos
Paulo.
and São Paulo, yeah.
Yeah, so it's spiritual colony above those cities there. No solar is above Rio.
Oh, okay. So those cities are,
Everywhere.
but they are close to the city itself. It's not like no solar would be above Brazil.
No, it's above Rio.
Above a specific region. Okay, I thought it was more like close to the whole country. No, it's close to a city specifically. So cities.
Yeah. Yeah, because while you have a large amount of incarnates, when they discarnate, they stay close to where they were incarnated by their vibrations in a general sense. Again, maybe for us that are immigrants, we can live here for 50 years, but we miss Brazil so much. Then when we go back to the spiritual world, we go back to a spiritual colony in Brazil, because that's how we connect vibrationally. So the spirits will go where their vibrational level takes them, but it makes sense that you would have above each city, you have a large concentration of spirits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about the spiritual colony in California in the book Voltaire, I Came Back, where Thomas Edison used to live, or still lives, I don't know. So
Thomas
imagine,
Edison, the scientist?
Yeah.
Didn't he live in New Jersey?
That's where Federico Figner went to meet him. I don't know.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Maybe he moved there when he went back to the spiritual world, following the example I just gave. Maybe he's more connected to California in terms of vibration. I don't know.
Okay.
Imagine that you lived in 5 different places in your life, right? Where you're going to be when you discarnate. Depends on where you are more comfortable with. It makes sense, right? You live here, but all your family is in Brazil. You want to be close to them, so you go back there in the spiritual world, or not. It depends, right?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. Any more questions here? Should we move on?
225. Is the quality of being errant a sign of a spirit's inferiority? No, because there are errant spirits of every degree. As we have already told you, being incarnated is a transitional state. Spirits are detached from matter in their normal state.
Next.
226. Is it accurate to say that all spirits who are not incarnate are errant? Yes, in terms of those who are going to reincarnate. Pure spirits have reached perfection and are no longer errant since their state is definite. Depending on their inherent qualities, spirits belong to different orders or pass through varying degrees of advancement successively as they become purified. Regarding their state as spirits, they may be incarnated or tied to a material body, errant or disengaged from a material body and awaiting a new incarnation for further improvement, or pure spirits who are perfect and have no further need for incarnation.
Okay, so here is the definition that I mentioned before. First, on the first question, the being an errant spirit only means one thing, that you are not a perfect spirit. All the spirits that still need to reincarnate when they are in the spiritual world are called errant spirits. And so it is exactly what Kardec asked in the second question. All spirits who are not incarnate are errant. And the spirits answer yes, for those that are going to reincarnate, and pure spirits are no longer errant since their state is definitive. So here, and then Kardec, on his comment, he says that we have, so what can we be? We can be incarnated or connected to a physical body, errant or disconnected from a physical body and awaiting a new incarnation to continue our improvement, or pure spirits that are perfect and have no further need or reincarnation. So you'll find only these three types of spirits in the evolutionary process. Okay. We'll move on. Okay.
227. How do errant spirits learn, since they cannot be in the same manner as incarnate people do? They study their past and try to think of ways to rise to a higher degree. They observe everything that is happening around them while listening to the discourses of enlightened individuals and the counsels of more advanced spirits than they are, and this provides them ideas they did not possess.
Okay, so again, when Kardec asked the spirits this, we didn't have André Luiz' journey, right? Nowadays, we can learn with André Luiz how the spirits can evolve in the spiritual world. André Luiz studies, learns about his past, tries to learn ways to rise to a higher degree. When in the beginning of Nosso Lar, he's in the lower zones, staying there for a number of years. Then he's taken to Nosso Lar, to the hospital, and then to a house. And he's only learning. He wants to work. At a certain point, he's desperate to start working. He learns in the hospital that he cannot be a doctor like he was here, that he has to start by cleaning the hospital. There is cleaning in the spiritual world. And then he eventually, the book with the continuation of the book, he's learning more, and eventually he comes here, meet his family, have a very big test of what he had learned in the spiritual world when he sees that his wife erased all the memories, former wife erased all his memories of the memories of their marriage and has a new husband, and he's forced to help this husband to survive. And that's when he learns that he's more able to put in practice the learnings he had received in Nosso Lar. And then throughout the other 10, 12 books of the collection, we'll see André Luiz continue to learn, continue to evolve, continue to receive information and be able already to work and help and assist. Of course, in most of the books with a mentor, following a mentor, following a guide, but already working in his style, which is, very, very willing to do things, and sometimes being held back by the mentors to control his impulses, his impulsiveness. But you see in his book, and I think that his collection explains very well how errant spirits learn, and it, of course, is not in the same manner as incarnate people do, but it's not that different. Okay. Any questions, comments here? Dani. So
from the examples you were giving from the André Luiz's books and from the in Life Goes On also, it seems that everything in this errant state is about improving, like you said, right? But I wonder, since the stories go around only about the main characters, and they mention so many, they mention, like, as I said, a city with industries and institutes and schools and transportation, so not everybody is dedicated to that, or it's like it's saying here, it's a thing that basically every errant spirit is prone to do, like improve, look back, see what can do, help family, plan the next incarnation. It's all about that, or there might be errant spirits that are just living their lives and not necessarily working on self-improvement, let's say.
There are many.
There are many, but not
Yes.
not talking about the ones who are not aware or are into revenge and this kind of other projects.
No, there are those spirits that are not good nor bad, not good nor evil. They are the average spirits. And for us to learn and to evolve in the spiritual world, again, according to our free will, we need to want to. We need to be interested. You find, by reading Nosular, you see a description of this different types of spirits that are there. Spirits that are learning, spirits that are there but are not very hard work. You have an example of a lady there that keeps complaining about the jobs that she has in Nosular, and you have this André Luis. When he's in Tobias' house, when the Denise or something like that only wants to reconnect with the boyfriend that was left behind.
The fiancé.
So, fiancé, yes. So, even in organized colonies like Nosular, you have spirits at different levels of evolution, and some more and some less interested in learning. But to reach a colony like Nosular, you need at least to be willing to improve. If you are not willing to improve, if you are, you don't want to do anything bad, but you also don't want to work on improve yourself, you are going to stay in the lower zones where there are millions of spirits that are doing are wandering around without much doing anything. And these spirits, they may become targets or victims of the leaders of the lower zones. So you have like the book we're studying, Liberation, right? That you have Gregorio and his team of workers, and then you have all these spirits that they dominate there. So there are really a world of trials and expiations is a world where evil prevails over good, right? Goodness. So that's the world we live in. So if evil prevails over goodness, means that more than half of the spirits around Earth are inclined to act on their inferior tendencies, not inclined to improve. So these spirits are, they need to change their mind. They're not dedicated to do evil, many of them, but they are not really like we see here on Earth. There are many that don't really want to make any effort, work for survival because they need to survive to pay the bills, but they are not trying to improve anything. They do the 9 to 5 and go home and watch TV, and that's it. They don't care much more. So these spirits go back to the spiritual world. If they don't change their thought process and their willingness to learn, to evolve, they'll find places surrounded by spirits like-minded spirits that they will be, just roaming around, maybe making fun of those participating in Ouija boards and things like that, if they can interfere here, or connect with spirits that are allowing their incarnated spirits that are allowing their inferior tendencies to prevail. So you'll find them in bars, in these places of that we consider to have fun here, right? So you can have all these spirits around. The spirits at our stage, less than half of the spirits are really working on improving themselves. But the spirits are not working to improve themselves. It's just a matter of a nudge. Sometimes, many of them, recognizing that they reach a point that becomes boring and becomes frustrating of not doing anything useful, and then they will look for opportunities to do something useful, and that will help them eventually. It's the only, a door opening for for them to do good. Okay.
You know, just to follow up a little bit, this part of the process of self-improvement, right? If you, like, I have lived enough to look back some years, and like more and more there are books and movies and podcasts and literature that is talking about self-improvement, right? More and more. So for spirits maybe that might not be able to use their time in the spiritual world for that, it's right in our face here. So, you know, or I was thinking about that the other day. It's either that more and more spirits are coming with that knowledge already, like, and life goes on. It mentions that Evelina goes to sort of a college to learn all about that, to help her family, you know, people who are already discarnate and people who are here on Earth. So I wonder if more people that experienced that are coming and are writing and are, you know, moving us forward here, or if it is the transition that or the transition that Earth is going through. So it's not only when we go back, but it's here too. So it's like there is no way out. At some point you have to catch up, right?
And yeah, and actually you gave a good example, because let's talk about someone that had no interest in learning anything about spirituality or anything useful for their spiritual evolution until they are 40. And then eventually something happens and they start becoming more interested, and they dedicate their life to it, the rest of their life to learning more. It's the same in the spiritual world, right? You spend some time there not caring about anything, and reaches a point that you ask yourself, maybe, or some of them, and you ask yourself, is that all? Shouldn't be there something else here that I can do? You know, something that may come and force you to rethink what you are doing, can make you become more interested in learning. There are several opportunities in the spiritual world, as we see through the books of André Luiz, of improving in the spiritual world and available to these spirits. And imagine if you are taking, let's say you are in the lower zones, and you shown an interest to eventually, you know, after spending, I don't know, many years there, you ask yourself, wow, I would really like to see something different. And you have a spirit that takes you to Nosso Lar to visit. Say, listen, this is where you can be if you work a little bit on yourself. So you may be taken to a transitory house of assistance to be there for some time, to learn a little bit, to work a little bit, and then you are taken to a place like Nosso Lar. We see that in André Luiz books also. So, you know, again, there and here is a copy. Bad copy of the spiritual world. So everything that you see here, it comes from there. So, but again, there it's more, here we are all mixed together. There it's more divided according to our vibrational level. Eric posted a question if there are books that describes how spiritual colonies were implemented. The spiritual colonies are a product of the collective thoughts of the spirits that inhabit them. So that's how they are constructed. In the book Nosso Lar, there is a description of the beginnings of Nosso Lar, how it was formed by Portuguese immigrants in Brazil. Like Brazil was colonized by Portuguese, Nosso Lar was created by Portuguese immigrants also. So if you read Nosso Lar, you'll find there a little bit of how Nosso Lar was created. But the spiritual colonies are nothing more than the collective thoughts of the spirits that live there in these cities, connected to each other and building through their thought process the cities. Luis.
No, just 2 points. I was not going even to add to your answer, but I always like to emphasize that when we say thought process, We should not think it's a product of imagination. It's just that the technologies used by the errant spirits to build things are different from ours. But those things are universal fluid. They are, similar to matter with differentiation and thousands of varieties. So it's not a figment of imagination. It's real. I don't know if you agree, João.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important, right? Because you may think that it's all imagination of the spirits. No, you think, and with your thought you create matter and you produce things, right? So Andrea Luiz is living in a house in Ossular of I forgot her name now, of Lysias and his mother. I forgot her name. And it's a house. It's a real house. It's a house with the rooms and the dinner table that they have dinner and things like that. So it's very similar to what we have here. Once we convince ourselves that here is a copy of there, it makes things easier to understand that the spiritual world, not to think that the spiritual world is a fantasy land, let's say, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's all matter, Eric. It's all matter. It's all universal fluid. It just is not in the same dimension that we are. If I'm loosely using the word dimension, but all of that, our perispirit is matter. It has organs, as we have been discussing. So it's real. It's an actual thing. Yeah. But the reason I opened the camera is regarding Danny's question and your answer and your reply. I have been present to mediunic meetings where the same spirit, an obsessor, but not a bad or heavy obsessor, an obsessor that was with someone because it had affinity to him or her, that came back more than once to our meetings in different days after taking to a spiritual city or a triage center, I'm not sure which. I remember more than one case, actually I've done several cases. And the guy came back obsessing the same person, saying, well, I did not really like it there. Point being, João, and my question is, sometimes even if the vibration is okay and the guy and the spirit, the errant spirit, has a perspective of successfully adapting to an errant city, I lost the name. Anyway, sometimes it doesn't work out, and the guy comes back because he likes to be around us. Isn't that true? Why that happens?
You can think of us here trying to overcome addictions or imperfections, right? We know we need to overcome. We make an effort to do it, but we relapse, right? Because we are still not strong enough to overcome. And then the spiritual world is the same, right? So we have our free will. We have an opportunity. We want to take the opportunity, but sometimes it's stronger than us, and we fall back to old habits, right? We cannot overcome the old habits, the imperfections.
Have you had similar experiences in your mediumistic meetings of the same errant spirits coming back?
Yes. We actually have it, right, Carol? I know you are laughing there. And we regularly have those spirits coming and say, why I'm here again? Why you're bringing me here again? I already told you I don't want to talk to you guys. I don't like you guys. Why are you bringing me here?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. And we always say, you are here because there is something for you to learn here. There is something. You are not here by chance. It's not an accident that you were brought back, to be very clear to everybody. Okay. Actually, the next question talks what you just said, Luis, a little bit. Go, Philip.
229?
Yeah.
Why do spirits not leave behind all their wrongful passions when they leave the earth, considering that they are then able to perceive the disastrous consequences of those passions? There are people in your world who are excessively jealous. For example, do you think that they lose their imperfections immediately upon leaving your world? After the departure from physical life, especially those who have had well-marked passions, the spirits retain a kind of atmosphere that envelopes them, that is infused with all their former negative base traits, since they are not entirely freed from the influence of materiality. They catch glimpses of the truth here and there, showing them the true path to follow.
Yeah. So here the question is, when we go back to the spiritual world, why we don't immediately leave behind our imperfections and don't recognize that the disastrous consequences that it caused us? Well, we have just to look at us again here, the incarnate ones, right? There are so many people that know that their imperfections cause them more harm than good and are unable to leave it behind to overcome their imperfections. You go back to the spiritual world, you carry those with you. So if you are, let's say, excessively jealous here and of your, let's say, wife or husband, you go back to the spiritual world, what do you want to do there? It's to continue following your wife or husband here to make sure that he or she doesn't find a new partner, because you are jealous, excessively jealous. You don't leave it behind, and actually you bring with you the obsessive thought of being connected to the one that you are jealous of. So you are not, sometimes you don't even understand that it's wrong, or even if you understand, you are not able to overcome your inferior tendencies. So that's what happens to us when I go back to the spiritual world. What I normally say is that, you go back to the spiritual world the next day, you wake up there, you haven't changed anything. You lost your physical body. But besides that, of course, the shock of the changing of losing your physical body, of the physical death, can cause some transformations in terms of your awareness, in terms of your realization of your existence, and we hope it changes for the better. But it doesn't necessarily change much of who you are. Your imperfections are still there. You don't become patient because you went back to the spiritual world. You continue to be impatient. You need to learn. It's something that you need to acquire. So the spirits, they sometimes have, as the spirits say, they catch glimpses of the truth here and there. But the fact that they catch glimpses doesn't mean that they're going to act on it. So they may well be stuck in their inferior tendencies and continue to act on them, and makes the spiritual progress more difficult. That we are always progressing, even when we are stuck, we are progressing, because we are learning from what we shouldn't be doing, at least. But it's sometimes the progress is imperceptible. Actually, famous Brazilian spiritist author Hermínio Miranda talks about how each incarnation, if we analyze our incarnations, how little we progress with each incarnation, unfortunately. But we progress. Okay. Questions, comments here? So I just gave a spoiler of the next question.
Shall I continue?
Yep.
230. Do spirits progress when they are in the errant state? They may, in proportion to their efforts and desire for improvement. It is in the physical life that they put new ideas they have acquired into practice.
Okay, so the example we give here, it's not exactly how it is, but the example is when you are studying, you're going to college, right? You are learning a lot, but you put in practice when you start working in your professional life. So in the spiritual world, you are learning a lot, but you only put into practice here when you have a physical body and you have the challenges of a physical body and you have the challenge of spirits around you that are very different from you, enemies of the past and difficulties of the challenges of the physical body. That's when you put in practice to make sure that the advancements, what you have learned in the spiritual world, have helped you progress or not. Okay. Next.
231. Are errant spirits happy or unhappy? It depends on their merit. They suffer from the passions they have retained and are more or less happy depending on the strength of their connection to material life. When a spirit is in an errant state, it has perceptions of what it needs in order to be happy. When this happens, it is compelled to seek what it lacks. However, a spirit is not always permitted to reincarnate when it desires to do so. And in that case, it becomes a punishment.
Okay, so our state in the spiritual world of happiness or unhappiness, relative happiness or unhappiness, is according to our degree of evolution, according to our understanding and acceptance of our state of evolution, our mistakes of the past, and our need to improvement. You see the descriptions of the spiritual books by André Luiz of the relative happiness that he feels when he's working to help and assist others is something that he acquired through his work and dedication in the spiritual world. But the spirit in the spiritual world has the ability to learn what it needs if it wishes. It has the ability to learn what it needs and in order to be happy, as they say. For André Luiz in the book Nosso Lar, in a dream, goes to the colony that his mother, a more evolved spirit, lives and have a glimpse of what is the state of happiness that she lives there in that more evolved colony, and comes back with a very, very impressed of what he had seen. So he's there sleeping in his spiritual body, and he leaves the spiritual body. The spirit leaves the spiritual body. Food for thought for you. Maybe bring this question for Sunday. I'm not going to go further into it. But when it says here how a spirit's not always permitted to reincarnate when he desires to do so, and in case becomes a punishment, there is 3 times more spirits in the spiritual world around Earth than incarnated ones. So there is a long line for a reincarnation. It's not when we wish to do so that we can come. It has to be adequate for us and for those around us for us to have this opportunity. So we may not have the opportunity when we want, and we may have to wait according to our necessity and the necessity of those around us. Okay. All right, Philip, read the last 2 so we finish this today.
Okay, 232. Can errant spirits enter all worlds? That depends. When a spirit has left the body, it is not fully disengaged from matter. It still belongs to the world in which it has lived, or even a world of the same degree, unless it has risen to a world of a higher degree. This progressive elevation should be the perpetual goal of every spirit, or else it would never reach perfection. A spirit may enter higher worlds, but it would be as an outsider. It can only obtain a glimpse of them, but such glimpses often trigger a desire to improve, to become worthy of the happiness that is enjoyed in those worlds, and to eventually live in them. 233. Do purified spirits ever enter lower worlds? They enter them very frequently to help these worlds advance. Otherwise, these worlds would be left to themselves without any guides to direct them.
So here we're talking about less evolved spirits going to a more evolved world. It doesn't happen. You only go to a more evolved world when you merit according to your spiritual progress. You can progress faster than the world you're living in, and then you can move to a more evolved world, or you can progress slower than the world you're living in, and then you may be forced to go to a less evolved world, like the exiles of Capella that reincarnated on Earth 10,000 years ago. The other way around, there are always more evolved spirits around lower worlds, helping lower worlds to progress. Remember that more evolved spirits, they don't need to stay in the lower worlds. They can come and go, but they can come and even have reincarnations in lower worlds if it's needed, like in the book Renunciation, when you see Alcyone coming to incarnate on Earth, specifically to help a loved one. So yes, it's possible, but it's a struggle for them, and because it's a very the matter is very gross and it's difficult for them, but they can. Well, even a perfect spirit like Jesus incarnated on Earth, right, to help world evolve and divide the time, like Divaldo says always. So if less evolved world didn't have more evolved spirits to help, the progress will be much slower, much more difficult. So that's why they will come to less evolved worlds to have help in the progress. Okay. Okay. Any final questions, comments here? Yes, Carol.
General clarification. I think there's a terminology called psychosphere or psychospheres. Is that applicable to the spirit world as well as the physical world? Worlds, I should say. I've heard,
yes.
I've heard it way back, but I don't recall what that means exactly.
The psychosphere is the collective thought of a group of people, right, in a region that forms the psychosphere of that region. It can be both spirits and incarnated or errant spirits. Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Appreciate that, John.
Okay. Stop share here. Let's talk about this weekend. So on this Saturday, we have Danielle Martins talking about detachment and spiritual well-being at 11 a.m. through the United Spirits Federation YouTube channel, TVC YouTube channel, and the United States Spirits Federation Facebook channel. On Saturday, next Saturday, we have Luis talking to us about Spiritism, philosophy, and science. So you're invited for the next Saturday to connect and to listen to his talk. This Sunday, it's the last Sunday of the month. So as usual, we'll have our Q&A. Please bring your questions. So you can send me in advance if you want to, but you are also all invited. Okay. Carol, can you do our final prayer, please?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Infinite Spirit and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful for the opportunity to be together this evening to explore and have a better understanding of the Spirit's book, the Spirit's life, and that would be chapter 6. We have learned that errant spirits are awaiting an incarnation. They are not perfect spirits. Pure spirits no longer reincarnate. We know that there are various spiritual colonies above physical cities, so the vibration may match somewhat to those cities because the inhabitants would have perhaps a preference of that vibration, or they feel closer to that particular city energy. So I'm sure there are exceptions to that, but that may be a general idea. We are understanding that the collective thoughts of these spirits create an energy field or a psychosphere. So that would allow the people who have gone to the spirit world, matching those vibrations at a greater rate. There are various places in the colonies, various vibrations. So those who resonate more closely together will be more in alignment with those thoughts. We are grateful for the guidance of our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, who are helping us to have a better comprehension, a better understanding of the spirit world. We are grateful for their help, their guidance, as we continue to learn and share as brothers and sisters. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies and our mindfulness, always trying to strive for a higher vibration, an open heart, and allowing ourselves to be more present, to know when we are to avail ourselves of charity, which is love in action. We are grateful for all we have learned here, and we are grateful to share with others who are with us, connected to this presentation. We are never alone, and there is always assistance as we do our part. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, within our hearts, and within our minds. And may we try to continue to keep steady, keep a balanced mind, a balanced heart on this path. May we continue to go forward as we are beacons of light, and may we go forth in safety, protection, and return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers very safe and sound. We give thanks for the opportunity to be together, and we close now this meeting. So be it.